There we go.
Uh-huh. All right. So, glad to see you guys here. If you missed last week, you really need to go and watch week 15 on YouTube, because there's a lot of information about the fourth step that we started last week that you won't be able to follow us from here on out if you don't have that information. So try to watch that this week if you haven't already. Does anybody got any questions on what we talked about last week?
I didn't do my study stuff, so I didn't.
Okay. Any questions at all? No?
Question.
Yes.
Do you have any more of those sheets that you had last week?
Wait, I didn't hand them out yet. We'll hand them out next week. We'll bring them for you next week.
15, and what's the thing this year? It's study outcome.
No, it's BB Study 2022.
Study
2022.
22. Okay, and week 15 is from last week.
Yes,
Now we're on week 16. Okay,
we are. Okay.
and did we have writing from last week then?
No,
Okay.
no, but we started on the fourth step and we covered a lot of important information that if you don't have, you won't be able to follow us. It won't make sense to you. Okay. So last week we talked about that with the fourth step, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to find the exact nature of our wrongs, right? The exact nature of our wrongs. We talked that Bill used different words in step 4, faults, and he changes the words and wrongs and 5s, defects, shortcomings, but they all mean the same thing. So the idea of step 4 is to find the exact nature of our wrong. Okay. And many moons ago, I went to the dictionary and I looked up the word wrong. And there's a whole bunch of definitions, but you should write these 3 definitions down. In no particular order, but one definition of the word wrong is incorrect judgment of other people. Incorrect judgment of other people. And we're going to find out as we go along a little later that that's exactly what a resentment is. Resentment is wrong judgment. Another definition for the word wrong is incorrect believing. Incorrect believing. And as we continue on, we're going to find out that that's exactly what most of our fears are. Incorrect believing. Fear is wrong believing. Resentment is wrong judgment. Fear is wrong believing. And then the last one that I wrote down that's pertinent to us is those things we do that hurt other people. And that's what harms to others are about. And a selfish, self-centered individual is always going to display these 3 wrongs. Wrong judgment, wrong believing, and the way they treat other people. Okay? It's easy to spot somebody like that because they're always madder than hell. You know, running around the room talking about damn her, damn them. They ain't gonna do that to me. They ain't gonna get away with that. You know, so a self-centered individual is always scared to death. And they're scared to get because they can't depend on God, they can't depend on other people, and they can't even depend on themselves. So you watch these people and you see that they're always hurting other people. And a selfish, self-centered person is absolutely blocked off from having any peace of mind or happiness. And if we don't get peace of mind or happiness or serenity, we're going to return to the drinks and the drugs because that gives it to us instantly, really. So last week we went over the 3 basic instincts of life. Does anybody got a question on those that they don't understand or don't follow, don't know how that makes sense to us? The God-given basic instincts of life? Nobody, everybody's okay with that? Basic instinct, 3 basic instincts of life: social instinct, the security instinct, and the sexual instinct. Okay, they're all God-given, therefore good. And we gave examples last week of how we take them out, way out into left field. Not the way they were intended by God giving them to us, but how we take them and warp them, okay? And those are always, we talked about, you know, taking shortcuts. And when we take shortcuts, we always step on people's toes. And when we step on people's toes, they always retaliate and cause pain and suffering in our life. And then the first thing we do is, how could you do that to me after all I've done for you? Okay.
Yeah, thanks for that phrase. I've heard it a few times this week.
All right. So now we're going to start talking about the things that we're going to inventory. So if you go back to page 64. And the first thing that we're going to look at is resentment. Now, these are what? You know what these are? You remember what these are? These are the 4 things we're going to inventory: resentment, fear, sexual conduct, harms to others. These are conditions of the cause. They're the way self has manifested in us. Okay. So on page 64, resentment is the #1 offender, the book says. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease, for we've been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. In dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. So he's asking us to write them down. We listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we were angry. And we spent a little time last week talking about principles. So very important. So for the next few weeks, I'd like for you guys to start thinking during the week about principles in your life. And we talked about generic principles and personal principles. But again, a principle is a moral, a value, or a belief. And everything you do in life is determined by your principles, your morals, your values, and beliefs. It's everything you do. In fact, that goes for us to say you can't do anything if it wasn't for what your principles are, or a lack of principles. So we asked ourselves why we were angry. So that's what we're going to put in column 1. Okay. Well, column 1 is who it is. Column 2 is why. What did they do to us? So we'll go over that list when I hand them out to you. In most cases, it was found that our self-esteem, our pocketbooks, our ambitions, our personal relationships, including sex, were hurt or threatened. So we were sore, we were burned up. On our grudge list, we said opposite each name our injuries. Was it our self-esteem, our security, our ambitions, our personal or sex relations, which had been interfered with? And the sheets that I'm going to give you have this all laid out perfectly for you. So you don't have to think and look, you just have to fill out the things. And then he says, we were usually as definite as this example. So this is when I think we touched on it last week, we talked about some people tell you to write your life story down. The book is not saying that. The book is saying, just be as definite as this. Shopping list. Remember the shopping list? Shopping list inventories, not big explanations and all that stuff. Just shopping list. Just get the bullet points down. And it's funny how many people don't do that. They think that the more they write, the more they're doing a 4th step. No, the more they write, the less they're doing a 4th step. And the more they're doing a step of their own. Because the book says we were usually as definite as this example. What does that mean? That means that we don't need to go beyond this. We don't need to go, this is just what we need to do. So we went back through our lives, nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty. When we were finished, we considered it carefully. The first thing apparent was that this world and its people were often quite wrong. To conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us ever got. The usual outcome was that people continued to wrong us and we stayed sore. Sometimes it was remorse, and then we were sore at ourselves. But the more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got. As in war, the victor only seems to win. Our moments of triumph were short-lived. So let's talk about resentment, so we understand what a resentment really is. When we got to we agnostics, we broke down the root origin of the word agnostic. It was 2 Greek words, remember? Well, the word resentment, the root origin of the word resentment comes from 2 Latin words. And you might want to write this down because it makes a lot of sense. R-E, in Latin, that means again. And I always mess this up. I don't know how to say it right, but the second part of resentment in Latin is sentinel, something like that. Greg, are you there? Greg down in Florida? He knows how to say it perfectly. Okay, he's not there today. I don't know how to say it, but the second part of that word in Latin is sentinel, I think. And that means feel. So the root origin of the word resentment means feel again. And again and again. That's right, exactly, Susan. Because that's exactly how we are. So I go out in the morning and I hit the world and I start dealing with you people. And, I run into Doug. He's always got a smart remark, I put that in the recorder and I record that shit. And then I run into Barry, and Barry's always got, Barry don't have to say nothing. I know what he's thinking with that look. And I record that, right? So I mark that down too. And I all you people all day long, all I'm doing is recording the way you act and look and talk, right? And I go home that night and I hit the rewind switch and I play it all back. And every time I play it back, I get a little madder. And every time I play it back, I become a little more right. And what happens is I feel it again and again. And every time I play that recording, I feel it again. Feel again, resentment. Okay. And that's what this is about. Not just knowing the root origin of the word makes it a lot more sense of how it messes with us, right? Now, and I'm not trying to minimize or discount a horrific incident in your life, but I've dealt with many people over the years, and let's say when you were 10 years old, you were molested. Man or woman, don't matter. And I've dealt with so many people over the years with this issue and lots of other issues like that. And it happened once or twice, okay? And not to discount that horrific thing that happened to you, but now you come into recovery, you're 32 years old. When you were 12, you had this horrific thing happen to you. And for the last 20 years, you have not been a victim of that thing. You have been a volunteer to the pain. And you have been a volunteer to that pain by replaying it over and over and over again. And feeling it again, to feel again, feel again. That person did that terrible thing to you 20-something years ago. But you have felt it again and again and again and again through resentment for the last 20 years. So in recovery, what we want to do, and many of us have issues like that or something close to something similar to that. We come in here with a lot of garbage. And we got to do something about that. If we don't do something about that, we're never going to heal. We're never going to grow. So this process is going to help us do that. First, understanding what a resentment is. That's why I said to you last week, I think, it doesn't help to take a newcomer through the steps, and when you get to the fourth step, tell them, write down everybody you're mad at. You know, that's mostly what happens. I do fourth step, right? You're resentment. Who are you mad at? And you know, people like us, we can come up with a list. We can certainly come up with a list, but we don't understand it. You know, we don't understand really what this is all about. And that's why I'm taking the time to try to explain what really a resentment really is and how it messes with you. And how useless it is to you, and how detrimental it is to you, and how useless and detrimental it's been for 20 years or as long as you've had it. Okay. Each time you think about it, you feel it again. And the incident happened once or twice, but you have felt it again and again and again, hundreds of times over the years. And that's what we're dealing with when we deal with resentments. So we're really volunteers to the suffering.
But at such a young age, you don't know a solution. When you're, like you said, 12, you're 12, you don't know any better.
No, I'm not blaming
No, I
I'm not blaming the, at 12 years old, you're certainly a victim. At 32 years old, you're not the victim anymore, but you keep playing the victim in your mind every time you feel the resentment. You believe to be a victim every time you feel that again, because it was such a terrible injustice done to you. And you, just like you said, you don't know any better. You're 12 years old. And so you become more, you feel it again and again and again. And every time you're more right, they're more wrong, and you're hurt again and again and again. And that person who did that act to you 20 years ago is repeatedly hurting you over and over and over again. And not that you're their victim anymore. You are the volunteer to that pain.
To me, I feel like that, because that did happen to me, like kindergarten age. And so to me, it slanted the way I looked at the world.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. But what I'm saying to you now, here and now, you're here. And now you're in recovery. And now it's time to change your life. But everything that happened, the way all your experiences up until you come here, yeah, I get it. But do you want to keep feeling like that the rest of your life? No. So it's time to change.
I think that with me, and doing that from like that victim, I just wanted to keep feeling validated for it. And so I wouldn't let it go because I was like, this happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just want to keep feeling validated for it.
Yeah.
Like, I know it happened.
Yeah.
I used to use my trauma as a crutch to be the victim, to, get
Yeah.
the
Sympathy
attention
and-
from
yeah.
everybody,
Yeah.
that was, I could definitely
Yeah.
see myself there.
Yeah, let me go back to what you just shared, because we began the first couple of steps, the first few steps. We did a lot of talk about God and the relationship with God. And we did a lot of talk about how much you are really valued, how valuable you are. Okay, we spent time talking about that. And that's something that we need to talk about with new people, because a lot of us come in here with feeling like that. But the truth of the matter is, you are worth the king's ransom. We read that in the God memorandum. Remember, you're worth the king's ransom. But
What she's even, I can relate to what she's saying about holding on to it, because in here he talks about being the hole in the donut. Who am I if I let that go?
Yeah.
Because I know even, I've worked on that particular issue before, but letting that go and trying to get a new pair of glasses and a new perspective on things, it felt scary
yeah,
for me.
we're not going to let it go here in this step. What we're going to do here in this step is acknowledge it. Remember, I talked about last week, you know, going in my closet and putting on, the shirt don't fit me no more, but I ain't gonna get rid of it because someday, I'm magically gonna be able to fit this thing. And each year it gets a little tighter, right? So what we're doing in the fourth step, we're not getting rid of anything in the fourth step. What we're doing in the fourth step is acknowledging just who and what we have and what doesn't work for us. And then 5 and 6 and 7, we start getting rid of that stuff. Okay. But right now, we're just kind of, we're taking an inventory. That's the best word I could think of. We're taking an inventory of what we have. Okay. And we're looking at all of the the liabilities, not the assets. Okay. Again, it doesn't make sense to inventory assets. So, okay. I'm going to give you a mantra that I want you to write down. And believe me when I tell you, this is going to help you if you utilize this in your life. Resentment comes from a threat to any basic instinct. I'm going to give you time to write it down. Resentment comes from a threat to any basic instinct. So what do I mean by that? If you threaten, if me and Jeff are friends and you interfere with that, right? I'm going to get angry. I'm going to get mad. I'm going to get a resentment. Or if I want to be friends with Jeff and you interfere with that, right? Because the book talks about that too. He says, our pocketbooks are our ambitions, right? So if my ambition is to be friends with him and you mess with that, I'm going to get mad. So the mantra is, resentment comes from a threat to any basic instinct. Can't do anything about other people. Can't do anything. Can't do anything about other people. Actually, can't do anything about what other people do. So I'm sorry, let me say it over again. Resentment comes from a threat to any basic instinct. Can't do anything about other people. Can't do anything about what other people do. But maybe with God's help, I can react differently and not get mad. If I'm not mad, there's no anger. If there's no anger, there's no resentment. If there's no resentment, I'm not blocked off from God.
Definitely did not follow all of that,
Okay.
Are you gonna read it again?
but maybe with God.
Yes. But when I say it to myself, so I kind of make my own little shortcut with it now after all these years of saying it. So I'm trying to read it to you as it originally was for me. So resentment comes from a threat to any basic instinct. Can't do anything about other people. Can't do anything about what other people do. But maybe with God's help, I can react differently and not get mad. If I'm not mad, no anger. No anger, no resentment. No resentment, I'm not blocked off from God. No resentment, I'm not blocked off from God.
If I'm not mad,
If I'm not mad, that's no anger. If I don't have any anger, I don't have any resentment. If I don't have any resentment, I'm not blocked off from God.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I can speak
This-
read, but I can't speak right.
Okay.
If I'm not mad.
So I can't do anything about other people. I can't do anything about what other people do. But maybe with God's help, I can act differently.
React or act? That changes.
React.
Okay.
React differently. I can react differently.
There's no anger, there's no.
And if and not get mad, right? So if I can react differently, then I don't get mad. If I'm not mad, I don't have any anger. If I don't have any anger, there's no resentment. If there's no resentment, I'm not blocked off from God. And this same mantra I use for fear and just replace it with fear. So fear comes from a threat to any basic instinct. Can't do anything about other people. Can't do anything about what other people do. But maybe with God's help, I can react differently and not be afraid. If I'm not afraid, there's no fear. If I'm no fear, I'm not blocked off from God. So I know it's long and it may sound confusing. That's why I call it a mantra. If you keep saying it and keep saying it, you'll get it in your head and you can control. See, I want to say this to you. This is important. Anger doesn't happen to you. Anger doesn't happen to you. You don't like get on an elevator, crowded elevator, and the guy next to you is suffering from anger. And if you get too close, you're going to catch it, right? That doesn't happen. Anger doesn't happen to you. You happen to anger. So anger doesn't happen to you. You happen to anger. Now, if I know that, then I realize that I can't do anything about what you feel and what you take inside, but I can do something about how I feel and what I take inside. And if I know now that anger comes from a threat to any basic instinct, any of my basic instincts, right? And I know that I can't do anything about other people and I can't do anything about what other people do. But if I react differently, maybe I won't get mad. And if I don't get mad, I don't have no anger. If I don't have no anger, I don't have no resentment. If I don't have no resentment, I'm not blocked off from God. Anger doesn't happen to you. You happen to anger. Now, we all listen, I probably get angry. I've been sober a long time, so I'm going to say probably only about 100 times a day. But honest to God, I could look you in the eye and tell you that the God's on about 10 seconds for me. If I go about a half a minute being angry, that's a bad one. I can't remember the last time I was angry for minutes. And you know, but I get angry all the time. And I have to bite my tongue. I have to take a breath. I have to remember that I can't do anything about other people. And that the poison is, you know, that old saying, right? Resentment is like you drinking the poison and me drinking the poison and waiting for you to die, right? It's stupid. So that's what happens with this. So I don't want to, if I don't get mad at the beginning, there's nothing for me to feel again later. All right. I'm not sure how true that is what I just said, because I can think of times that I didn't get mad and then later thought about it and got mad. But again, only for a few seconds and I got rid of it. So, you know, we're not talking cured here, that's for sure. But I guarantee you that if you start practicing this stuff in your life and you start realizing every time that you get angry and you go through this thing that, you know, you're getting angry, you're making yourself angry. Yeah, somebody else did or said something or something happened, but they don't put anger on you. They may throw their stupidity around. They may throw their obnoxiousness around, but you're the one that accepts it and brings it in. And now we know the mantra that anger comes from a threat to any basic instinct. Can't do anything about other people, can't do anything about what other people do, but maybe with God's help, I can react differently and not get angry. If I'm not angry, if I'm not mad, there's no anger. There's no anger, there's no resentment. There's no resentment, I'm not blocked off from God. And my life is much better.
This past weekend, I found myself avoiding the situation
Okay.
completely. Because I knew it would create resentments. Is that a healthy way to deal with it, or is that just avoidance?
You know, it all depends on the circumstance, you know, I'd have to have all the information, but either way, did you get angry?
No,
Okay,
because I wasn't there.
okay. All right, so, you know, now you have to look at the part that you did do. You avoided something. And you might come out, if you take a look at that, you might come out and say that was the smart thing to do.
Mhm.
I don't know. You know,
Gotcha.
maybe it could be smart, it could be cowardlessness, it could be it could be a lot of things, right? But if you don't look at it, you're not gonna know. But so I can't give you an answer. Did you do the right thing? You didn't get angry, so there you got one for that. You get an A for effort. But you know, and if you look at it and take a look at it and write about it and talk about it and pray about it, you'll come out with some at some point to know, you know, is there something you have to work on? There's probably, you know, that a scenario like that sounds like there's something to work on. I don't know what it is because I don't know the whole circumstance. But it sounds like you got something to work on, but at least you didn't get angry. Right?
Sometimes,
Go ahead.
so, like, I kind of lost it, but, sometimes, with that anger and all of that, like, it realize traffic sometimes, and it's like, you have to kind of put that person on a distance.
Yeah, some people, you know, listen, some people you cannot avoid. Some people like maybe like immediate family or some people maybe that you work with that you can't avoid them. So you want to limit your time as much as possible with some people, you know.
And if you realize you've been having any kind of contact with this person and it's really not like a that I have to deal with, but I realized continuing the contact with this person is gonna continue to hurt me and others.
Well, if you don't have to have contact with them, then you don't have contact with them.
Right.
Yeah. You know. It's like the guy that comes out of his building and he comes down the steps and he turns left walks down the sidewalk, falls into a big hole. The next day he comes out of his building, he walks down the steps, he turns left, he falls into a big hole. The next day he comes out, he walks down the steps, he crosses the street. And he goes a different way. How many times you want to fall in the hole? So, you know, so that's, you know, some things are real simple to work, but once we start getting our resentments down on paper and going through the years past and taking a look at, you know, why am I mad at this person? Why am I mad at these people? Why am I mad at this institution? Why am I mad at this principles? So again, if you didn't watch week 15, you got to watch week 15 because there's a lot of information there that's going to help you. So, all right. So anybody got any questions on that?
I got any.
Yes.
So, and I remember having that myself, and I mean, I felt this guys has that problem. So when you get angry, right, in the beginning, I mean, I understand there's years of sobriety to get better, sanity, but I mean, in the beginning, when you get angry, what exercise should I tell them? I mean, like, besides putting it on paper, because the moment they're angry,
Well, the mantra is a good one.
do I just tell them to look what instinct, what basic instinct?
Yeah, because you can't get angry if one of your basic instincts weren't threatened. Your social instinct, your security instinct, your sexual instinct, one of those things, or your ambitions for those things, one of those things were, you know, when I first got sober, I think this is what you want to hear because you've heard it before, but it's pretty sick. But when somebody used to get me mad, of course, it took me a lot longer than 10 seconds to not be mad. But when somebody used to get me mad, what I used to do was I used to think about, let me see the best way I could say this, dismantling them and how many pieces I could create. And I literally played that tape through my head. And then when I got to the end of that tape, I said to myself, I know I can do that to them. Don't need to. And walk away. So, of course, again,
So walking away is okay?
I would say it's better than chopping them up, yeah. Yeah, it depends who it is, yeah. If you can avoid, like you were talking about, you may turn out that you look at it and you made a great move, I don't know. But if you can avoid a situation that's gonna get you angry, or once you get angry, and you don't have any control over that anger yet, then you need to walk away. Because otherwise it's only gonna escalate and it's gonna get worse.
I left, I had a home group that I went to for a very long time, and I had some differences of opinion with someone in there, and I left that home group. I have yet to return there. But in that time, so my sponsor said the trick is to get to a place where you don't even get mad.
Well, good luck with that one.
To where you're not affected by the anger, Chris.
Everybody's different. Like you see, what you just said, that worked for you. I'm never going to allow anybody to run me out of my home.
She said that.
I hate to say this, but it's an old thing. If a resentment is inevitable, it's better to be the giver than the receiver. Hey, can we scratch that off the record there? Jeff, rewind that, would you? I'm not going to leave my home group because somebody annoys me there. If that was the case, I wouldn't have a home group because everywhere I go, somebody's going to annoy me. We are an annoying lot of people.
It is possible to get to that. And this is the stepping stone to that, because you're gonna learn how to set boundaries, know what your truth is.
Yeah.
And what behaviors are appropriate and not appropriate when you're interacting. Where I'm finding difficulty right now is the anger at myself. Getting myself in the situation. So I'm really angry at myself right now because I'm putting myself, why am I going back, into that, friendship or whatever it is. So the anger is directed towards me, and I can't just tell myself to shut up and leave or.
In AA, there's an old saying in AA. It's very old. It's been around for as long as AA has been around practically. They say, if you don't like how you're feeling, stop doing what you're doing. How simple you want it to be. You ask anybody who's been around for years and years and years, they've heard that many times. If you don't like how you're feeling, stop doing what you're doing. But I don't know. I think some people can get to the point where practically hardly ever do they get angry. And but I don't know if anybody could never be angry. I don't know if that's possible. But that's not even important. Because if you don't sit with the anger, see, a resentment is undealt with anger. So if you don't deal with the anger, it turns into a resentment. Why? Because you feel it again, and you feel it again, and you feel it again. That is the root origin of the word resentment. Feel again. Re means to again, and sentinel is Latin for feel. So we feel again. So if you don't deal with the anger, it becomes a resentment. And every time you think about it, you feel it again. And I don't know any one of us that ever thought about something that would happen to us, and when they did, they thought, oh, they didn't mean that.
But our book
We
says-
always think that they're more wrong and I'm more right. And what does the book say?
It just says, though we did not like their symptoms, which to me is their I mean, it says it right here, though, we did not like their symptoms and the way these disturbed us. They, like ourselves, were sick too. We asked God to help us show them the same.
We're not there
comfort.
yet.
Okay.
We're not there
To
yet.
that page yet, you're
No,
right. sorry.
we're not there yet.
Okay.
That is, what you're reading is the resentment prayer.
But that's the appropriate response. God save me from being angry.
Yeah, that's the appropriate response.
This is a sick.
Okay, we can all go home now. We don't ever have to come back because we know the appropriate response. You can close your books, put everything away. You now know the appropriate response.
Let's go get cheeseburgers.
Listen, it's before I got sober, before I came to AA, my whole life, I always knew right from wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not one of these people, I didn't know, I didn't realize bullshit. I always knew what I was doing. And I always chose to do wrong and to do bad. And now that I'm sober, and I learned, thank you, and I learned what's right and wrong and how to, it doesn't mean that I'm just, don't forget what the book already told us. Self-knowledge means nothing. You remember the formula I gave you? Me and Barry were talking about before the meeting. Knowledge plus practice equals what? Equals learning. Knowledge plus practice equals learning. Learning changes character. Character changes the way we live. Right? So you have to gather knowledge and then practice that knowledge in your life before you learn anything. Knowledge plus practice equal learning. Learning changes character. Character changes the way we live. So the book is going to give us the answer. But just because the book gives us the answer doesn't make everything okay.
Yeah.
We're on page 66. Let's go. So the first paragraph on 66 says, it is plain that a life which includes deep resentment leads only to fertility and unhappiness. To the precise extent that we permit these, do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile. I'm going to stop there for a second because I sponsored a guy years ago that I don't think he's sober anymore, but I actually still speak with him. But anyway, when we were going over this, when we were going over his fourth step, he kept having this lady's name kept coming back and back and back. And I says to him, and who is it? Oh, my ex-girlfriend. Oh, your ex-girlfriend. I said, she's in here an awful lot. I says, you seem consumed with her. He said, well, he says, I'd probably spend an hour a day thinking about her. I said, really? When did you guys break up? 6 years ago. 6 years ago? And you still spend an hour a day? So maybe a half an hour sometimes. I don't remember what the figure was, but we took out the calculator and we figured out every day, 60 minutes, 45 minutes, 30 minutes in the course of a week. And then we just multiplied it by 6. And he had wasted months of his life just obsessing on her. It was amazing. It was even enlightening for me to realize, because when he left, I thought, okay, who have I been wasting my life thinking about? Right? So he says, but with the alcoholic, whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience, the business of resentment is infinitely grave. Infinitely grave. We found that it is fatal. Those are harsh words. Infinitely grave, fatal. So what he's saying here is that resentment will kill you. Resentment will eat you up. But you see how they squandered away the hours just thinking about one thing, right? So for when harboring such feelings, we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the spirit. The insanity of alcohol returns and we drink again. And with us, to drink is to die. If we were to live, we had to be free of anger. So that's the goal, right? So when I get angry now, I tell you, I get through it, past it right away. I'm not free of it, but I'm sure ain't sitting with it. The grouch and the brainstorm were not for us. They may be the dubious luxury of normal men, but for alcoholics, these things are poison. And I like this sentence because when me and Mike were talking about it before the meeting, he says normal people, right? So what he's saying is normal people can handle this kind of stuff. Well, we can't. No, he's not. Because he's saying this is the dubious luxury that normal people think they can handle it. It may not send them to get drunk or get stoned, but it'll mess them up. They can't handle it either. But for us, it's fatal. For us, it's infinitely grave. For us, it'll kill us. But the normal people can't handle that shit either. Now, we're lucky though, because we have a program to do something about it, and they don't. They just sit with it for years, thinking they're all right. Now, listen to this next paragraph. It says, we turn back to the list, for it held the key to the future. We were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. Now, don't yell out the answer, Melissa. Well, what might be the entirely different angle? Anybody got an idea? No. Ginger said, where were we at fault? It already says that on the top of the page that, you know, we don't look at that. Oh, it says that coming up.
From their angle?
Other people's faults.
Huh?
Other people's faults.
Other people's faults? Well, the
mantra.
inventory is ours. We can only inventory ourselves, right? So
Other
here's the thing. Yes, you can look at your part too, but that's coming up. That's part of the instructions of the fourth step anyway. This is a message in here. And it's telling you to look at it from an entirely different angle.
Falls back on the third step, where we try to roll our ladder, we care God, therefore that means we're here to do what God wants us to do.
Okay, but we're talking about now inventorying in the fourth step and working with resentment and anger here. That might help for sure. But here's the entirely different angle. Okay, it doesn't matter who hurt me in column 1. It doesn't matter what they did to me in column 2. And these are the sheets I'm going to give you. It doesn't even matter what it affected in me in column 3. Nor does it matter what my part was in column 4. None of that matters. At this point, and this is so very important. If you get anything tonight, just get this. This is so important. It doesn't matter who it was, doesn't matter what they did, doesn't matter what it affected in me, it doesn't matter what my part was in it. All of that is irrelevant bullshit. What matters right now is I have a resentment, it's killing me, it's eating my lunch, and right, wrong, or indifferent, it's got to go. The entirely different angle is this resentment is killing me, and it doesn't matter anymore who was right, who was wrong, and what the circumstances. The resentment itself becomes the wrong. The resentment itself is now the exact nature of the wrong. Because it's eating my lunch, it's tearing me up, it's killing me. So I have to get rid of it. That's the entirely different angle that we're going to look at it from. I don't care what she did and what it affected in me. I don't care what my part was. Yeah, I'm going to look at that. I'm going to inventory that. I'm going to try to make that better. But that's not the important thing. At this point, to get rid of these resentments that are the ones that don't get rid of themselves by this process, because this process will get rid of most of your resentments. You might still be stuck with some, but this process will get, and when you're stuck with some, then you get to that fear, the resentment prayer. But the entirely different angle, look what it says. We turn back to the list, for it held the key to the future. So the list is the key there is that, I'm going to give you an example. I got a few minutes. Let me give you an example. So when I got sober, I'm gonna share with you, what was on my, list. So my columns were, the first column, these are the sheets I'm gonna hand out. It's who it was, what they did, and then it's got the 6 boxes here, of what it affected me, for what my part was, and how I act. So I had, in column 1, my resentment was Mary. That was my first wife. So I put her down on my resentments. And then in column 2, I put left me, took kids. See, bullet points, shopping list, right? No, she left Mary, she left me and took the kids. It affected whatever it affected in me. And in column 4, my part was never home, cheated all the time, no good husband, blah, 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 right? So what this is talking about now, we turn back to the list where it held the key to the future. So I actually, with her, when I got to the 4th column, I realized that, hey, if I was home, if I was a good husband, if I wasn't cheating on her, she never would have left me and took the kids. So you know what? I could take Mary's name out of here and I could put anybody's name in here. It doesn't matter the name of the person. If anybody left me and took the kids, I'm going to be mad at them. Right? So, all right. So I don't have to be mad at Mary. It's because it's what she did. Well, I don't have to be mad at what she did because it's what it affected in me that screwed me up. Well, I don't have to be mad at what it affected in me because look at my part. If I didn't do that, but you know what? If I go through all of this and I still have the resentment, then I can say, Mary don't matter, what she did don't matter, what affected don't matter, what I did don't matter. I got these resentments and I got to get rid of them. That's the entirely different angle. Does that make sense to you? So it says, we're prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. We began to see that the world and its people really dominated us. How does the world dominate us? Well, we try to control things, right? We try to control our feelings. We try to control people. And, you know, the way you dominate somebody is either through dependence or through aggression. You can dominate somebody just for them depending, you having to depend on them so much. So in that state, the wrongdoing of others, fancied or real, doesn't matter if it was real or if it was made up. Because maybe you never said that. Maybe you never did that. Maybe you never acted that way. It doesn't matter, because if I thought you did, it doesn't matter. So fancied or real, same difference. Had the power to actually kill. How could we escape? We saw that these resentments must be mastered, but how? We could not wish them away any more than alcohol. So this is putting it all together for us, and it's telling us that we got a very bad issue here. And that issue that we have is these resentments, and they have to go regardless of whoever it was and whatever they did and whatever was affected in me and whatever my part was, all becomes irrelevant. The main issue now, the entirely different angle now, is that this resentment has to go. Right, wrong, or indifferent. Very important information there. Okay. Anybody got any questions on that stuff?
What if we're justified?
Oh, well.
I got some coworkers and I'm pretty sure they're lazy motherfuckers.
Yeah. Well, and the book says that justified anger, you know, is going to get you too. As a matter of fact, sometimes that's even worse because, you know, the hardest door to open is the door to a closed mind, and the easiest way to close your mind is to believe you're right about something. You know what you're talking about. I'm right. And that's the hardest door to open right there. So justified anger, you maybe are right. And maybe you are justified. But you still can't deal with the anger because it eats you up. It kills you. So he says,
You wanna be right or you wanna be
that's right. You want to be right or you want to be happy? You know, when I got here and I heard that, I said, well, I want to be both. In fact, when I'm right, I'm happy. You know, you want to save your ass or your face, you know. So, all right, we got like 4 minutes. Let's just do some questions. Anybody got any questions there online? Anybody got any questions here? Yes.
I could get it.
Hold on a sec. Hold your quiet. We got one here and then I'll get to you. Go ahead, Jenny.
So I think when you were saying comes from or basic instances, that's basically the same as saying it comes from.
No. So that's a mantra that I said to write down because it'll help you later. And it goes like this, that anger comes from a threat to any basic instinct. Did you look at the last week's video? So you know what basic instincts are, the 3 of them, right? So the only way you're gonna ever get mad is that one of those 3 things are threatened. Your social instinct, your security instinct, your sexual instinct. One of those are threatened in any way, so anger comes from a threat to any basic instinct. Can't do anything about other people. Can't do anything about what other people do. But maybe with God's help, I can react differently and not get mad. If I don't get mad, I don't have anger. If I don't have anger, I don't have resentment. If I don't have resentment, I'm not blocked off from God. That's the mantra. And the same thing, the same mantra applies to fear. We just change it when we get to the fear part. And then I said that anger doesn't happen to you. That you happen to anger. And we talked about that. I think you were here for that, right? So.
I just have a quick comment. I'm Tara, I'm an alcoholic. So I have like an emergency situation that obviously wasn't prepared for at all. And I did that. I was trying to control everything. My mom was in the hospital. I was angry with the doctors. I was angry with my dad, not doing this, angry with my parents. I stayed there for a month and a half trying to control everything. And it is my fear because I'm afraid of losing them, but it came out in anger and it ate away. I mean, I didn't drink. That's not the only thing I didn't do, but I was insane. And that's from step 1.
That's why the book is going to say next, it's going to say when we inventory our fears, even if we don't have any resentment and connection to them, because a lot of fears are connected to a resentment. So yeah, it's good to have you back though. Somebody had a question online there? Speak now or forever hold your peace. You got 2 minutes.
Yeah, how do we get a copy of that worksheet?
Who's this?
Michelle Beck,
Oh, hey, Michelle. I sent you one. You sent me an email, didn't you?
it must have gone to my spam. I better check.
Well, I would check your spam because there's a good chance you're going to find it in there because you sent me an email and I replied to you.
Well, that cures my resentment.
You see, that falls under incorrect judgment.
There we go.
All right, nothing else. Same time, same channel next week. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Danny.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Oh yeah, let me kill it.
Bye, Danny.
See you guys.
Bye.